You ever trust someone so deeply that you'd hand them your heart, your home, your legacy, only to find out they were using it to build their own throne? That was my husband. And when I found out the company he built, the empire he bragged about, was built on my late father's money, I didn't just get angry. Got even. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who smiled while stabbing you in the back, hit that like button, subscribe, and settle in. Because this isn't just a story about lies and greed. It's about what happens when the wrong woman finds the truth. When I first met Daniel Cross, I was 28 and fresh out of a storm. My father, Richard Harper, had died 3 months earlier. Heart attack. Sudden. One of those calls that breaks the world in half. He left behind Harper Holdings, a small but respected investment firm he'd built from the ground up. I inherited it, but to be honest, I had no idea what I was doing. I was grieving, scared, and surrounded by men twice my age who looked at me like I was playing dress-up in my father's office. And that's when Daniel appeared. He came in as a consultant. Sharp suit, confident handshake, that perfect balance of charm and intellect that made everyone listen when he spoke. He told me he admired how I'd kept the firm afloat despite overwhelming odds. He said my father would have been proud. Those words hit me right in the chest. When someone says the thing you most need to hear, it's easy to confuse that with love. Within months, we were inseparable. Dinner meetings turned into dates. Business talk turned into long nights on my balcony with wine and plans for the future. He said we'd expand the company together. Take my father's dream and make it bigger, modern, unstoppable. For the first time since my dad's death, I felt like I had a partner again. Someone who saw me not as the scared daughter of a dead man, but as a woman who could build something great. We got married in a small ceremony overlooking the Hudson. Everyone said we were perfect together. They were right about one thing. We looked perfect. The first year of marriage was a blur. Daniel handled most of the business side, and I trusted him completely. He had this calm, logical way of explaining things, how certain accounts should be restructured, or why he needed to move client portfolios for efficiency. He'd pat my hand and say, "Don't stress, Em. Let me handle the boring stuff. You focus on the big picture." And I believed him. Because when you love someone, you don't imagine they're building a secret empire behind your back. About a year in, Daniel started talking about launching something new. Cross Dynamics, he called it, a consulting startup. He said it was separate from Harper Holdings, just a side project. He promised it wouldn't affect my father's firm. I wanted to support him, so I did. I even invested in it, thinking I was helping his dream come true the same way he'd helped me with mine. But soon Harper Holdings started losing clients. Long-time investors, people who'd known my father personally, were suddenly pulling out, redirecting their accounts to Daniel's company. When I brought it up, Daniel laughed. "Baby, it's all in the family. What's good for Cross Dynamics is good for us." That was his favorite phrase. Good for us. But over time, us started feeling like just him. I remember the first real argument we had. I'd been up late reviewing some old financial reports. A few signatures looked off, familiar but not quite right. They were my father's. At least, they were supposed to be. When I showed Daniel, he didn't even look at them. He just laughed. "Emma, your dad had assistants sign things all the time. You're overthinking it. Don't dig up ghosts." He called me emotional, paranoid. And that's when the gaslighting began. He'd twist my words, make me doubt myself. When I said I missed my father's guidance, he'd sigh and say, "You have to stop living in his shadow, Em. You're married to me now." It was subtle at first. Little comments that chipped away at my confidence. Then it got worse. He started making decisions without telling me. Hiring people I didn't approve. Shutting me out of meetings. He said it was to protect me from stress. But I wasn't stupid. I knew when someone was trying to silence me. Still I kept quiet. Because I didn't want to lose him. I'd already lost my father. I couldn't bear to lose Daniel too. I wish I'd known that the man I was afraid of losing had already planned to erase me completely. It happened one night around 2 a.m. Daniel was asleep and I couldn't. Something was gnawing at me. I opened my laptop and started comparing old contracts from my father's archives with recent ones Daniel had handled. And then I saw it. A document transferring one of my father's primary holdings to a cross-dynamic subsidiary. Signed Richard Harper. Dated 2 months after my father's death. My whole body went cold. I remember whispering, "No. No, that's not possible," as if saying it quietly could make it untrue. My father's signature was distinct, planted, precise. This one was close. Too close. Almost perfect, if you didn't know him like I did. I confronted Daniel the next morning. He didn't even blink. "Emma, that's probably a clerical mistake. These documents get recycled all the time." When I pressed harder, his voice turned sharp. "You need to stop questioning everything I do. I'm trying to save what your father built. Maybe if you'd been paying attention instead of crying for a year, we wouldn't be in this mess." That one sentence shattered me. He'd found my weakness and stabbed right into it. That was the night something inside me cracked. Not broken, just awakened. A few days later, while reorganizing files, I found an envelope in the back of Daniel's locked desk drawer. It was labeled, Estate Harper Holdings. My stomach dropped. Inside were copies of property deeds, bank transfers, and one note scrawled in Daniel's handwriting. Copy, original with Carter. Carter, my father's old lawyer. He died the year after my father, but I remembered how close they were. My dad trusted Carter with everything. That's when I remembered something Dad said the week before he passed. "If anything happens to me, trust the letters, not the people." I didn't understand it then, but now it hit me like a thunderbolt. What if my father had left something Carter never got to give me? I started calling Carter's old law firm, pretending I just wanted sentimental records. Most of them were long gone, but one older paralegal, June, remembered my father. She said she'd worked on his estate paperwork. When I mentioned Daniel's name, her tone changed. "Oh, you're his wife. I remember you. Did my father leave anything with your firm? Maybe a note or document?" She hesitated. "He did. A sealed envelope. Said it was for you only, to be delivered personally. But your husband came to pick it up after the funeral. Said you were too distraught." I gripped the phone so tight my hand hurt. Daniel had taken it. Whatever my father left me, he'd stolen it. June didn't know what was in it, but she remembered the word will written on the corner of the envelope. A missing will. And if I was right, that document could destroy Daniel. The more I thought about it, the more the puzzle pieces started clicking into place. Daniel had manipulated the probate court into believing my father's old will was invalid, leaving most of the estate in dispute. That gave him access to the assets. And from there he built cross dynamics, using my father's funds, clients, and legacy. Every cent he had came from my father's name. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I looked at him, I saw a thief. A liar sleeping beside me. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because by then I knew. Men like Daniel don't respond to confrontation. They respond to consequences. So I started planning. For the next 3 months I pretended cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, let him think everything was fine. But behind the scenes I was gathering everything: emails, contracts, bank statements, client lists. Every piece of proof showing how he'd transferred Harper funds into Cross Dynamics. I also found something even more damning: his digital signature files. The ones he used to forge my father's handwriting. It was all there, neatly stored in a password-protected folder called Legacy Projects. The irony was poetic. Daniel had gotten comfortable, arrogant. He never imagined the woman sitting across from him at dinner, smiling sweetly, was quietly dismantling his empire one document at a time. Meanwhile, I traced Carter's archives again. One last lead: a storage facility in upstate New York that housed old firm records. I lied to Daniel, told him I was visiting my aunt, and drove 3 hours north. The clerk opened the safe deposit box registered to Carter's estate. Inside was a yellowing envelope. My heart stopped when I saw my father's handwriting. To my daughter, Emma. I opened it right there in the bank. Inside was my father's final will. Signed, notarized, sealed. It clearly stated that all Harper Holdings assets, properties, and partnerships funded from Harper accounts belonged solely to me. And any company founded with Harper funds without written consent would revert to the estate. Meaning, Cross Dynamics wasn't Daniel's. It was mine. The 5-year anniversary gala for Cross Dynamics was Daniel's crowning glory. He rented out a luxury ballroom, invited investors, press, politicians, anyone worth impressing. He rehearsed his speech for weeks, and I rehearsed mine in silence. By that night, I had already filed the will with probate court and handed everything over to my father's old accounting firm for verification. I also sent anonymous packages to 2 major financial journalists. Daniel had no idea his perfect night was about to turn into his public funeral. When he took the stage, the lights gleamed off the glass trophies and champagne. He looked like a king addressing his kingdom. 5 years ago, I started with nothing but a dream. I couldn't help but laugh quietly. When he thanked me, my incredible wife, Emma, the woman who believed in me, I stepped up beside him. My voice didn't shake when I took the mic. Actually, Daniel, I think there's something the audience deserves to know. He froze. This company wasn't built on your dream. It was built on my father's money. Gasps filled the room. The will you hid, yes, the real one, has been recovered and filed with the courts. And per its terms, every dollar, every patent, every client list you built this company on belongs to the Harper estate. Cameras flashed. The investors murmured. Daniel tried to grab the mic, whispering through gritted teeth. Emma, what are you doing? Finishing what my father started, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then I turned to the crowd. If anyone here would like to see the proof, I've already sent copies to the press. Security escorted him off the stage as he shouted my name. I didn't look back. The next few weeks were chaos. The story exploded online. CEO exposed for using wife's family funds. Cross Dynamics board fired Daniel within days. His assets were frozen pending investigation. He tried to call me dozens of times. Texted, emailed, begged. You've destroyed me, Emma. Well, he destroyed himself the day he decided my father's death was an opportunity. I watched from my office window as the news cameras swarmed the building that used to have his name on it. Now it bore mine. But I didn't keep it. I liquidated the company and donated the money to a scholarship foundation in my father's name, for students studying business ethics. Daniel was left with nothing but a tarnished reputation and a lawsuit. Months later, I went to visit my father's grave. The autumn wind was cold, but I felt calm. I knelt, placed a copy of the restored will beside his tombstone, and whispered, "You were right, Dad. The truth always comes out." For the first time in years, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. I saw Daniel one last time outside the courthouse. He looked smaller somehow. Tired. He tried to smile. You could have just left me. I met his eyes. You could have just loved me. Then I walked away. I didn't take revenge out of spite. I did it out of justice. Out of love, for my father. And for the woman I used to be before I let someone else define my worth. Because when someone builds an empire on your back, you don't beg them to stop. You pull the ground out from under them. So yeah, my husband's secret company was built on my father's money. But what he didn't know was that I'd find the missing will, the truth he buried, and use it to burn everything he stole to the ground. And I didn't just get my father's legacy back. Got myself back. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who thought you'd never fight back, remember this. Silence is powerful, but truth is nuclear. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes karma doesn't knock. Kicks the door down.